And we're back, podcast number 10, Backyard Millionaires. We are here today with Johnny and Liz Gigash, the owners of Tomasino's Pizzerias, the best place to eat pizza in Central Florida. And we're going to be interviewing them today, and we're super excited for you guys to meet them. So what's up, guys?
How you doing?
How are you?
Good. And we had the baby here too, so if you hear little baby noises in the background, that's why. It's called family business, right? All right, guys. So today we're just gonna kind of go through some questions so everybody can get to know you and also get to know about your business. And I'm sure there's a lot of restaurant tours out there that we know 90% of businesses or restaurants fail.
Yeah, that's the statistic they say.
Right?
Yeah,
and you guys are successful over and over again. So if you're a restaurateur or any business owner, you're really going to want to listen up to this podcast.
Three different stores in Central Florida.
Correct.
Right? And we're looking at number 4.
Yep.
Right?
Hopefully soon. Correct.
There you go. So, no, very successful and awesome pizza. I mean,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
It's way too good. I wish it was, if only it was calorie free for me. I would eat it every day. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and just get started. Johnny, I'm going to ask you, just tell us a little bit about how you grew up.
Basically, I was born in Bronx, New York, and
that's where the best pizza's from, right?
yeah, exactly.
Watch out, Shaq.
My parents came here in 1970s with 5 children, and me and my little brother were born about 7 years after my parents came here. My dad was about 50, give or take, almost 50 years old when he came to America, migrated from Italy to America. Pretty much from there, we had to kind of move to Florida. And my father was at that time almost 60 years old, and he got into the real estate business. And I kind of see my father become an entrepreneur at that time in his late 50s, early 60s. And he literally was just buying homes at that time, back in the 80s, were a lot cheaper.
Right.
So they were like $50,000, $60,000 he was buying homes for, and he was able to rent them for $600, $700 a month. And he just literally had about, little by little, every couple of years, saved up his money. He was a great saver.
Wow.
Buy another home and another home. And that's how he pretty much supported us. I think we got up to about 9 or 10 homes. And then I started at an early age pretty much remodeling. So I was like 9, 10 years old, you know.
Went to work.
Yeah, laying tile down and painting and all that good stuff.
Moving some walls and all kinds of stuff, yeah.
So it kind of just started from there, I guess, my entrepreneurial skills pretty much.
That is awesome. I love that story.
Cool.
You're basically then, you would say you guys, your father came over, had to work. I mean, did he speak the language?
No
I
English.
think he started as a janitor, making like $4 an
No,
hour.
actually back then it was $2 an hour.
$2 an hour, right?
As a
$2.25.
janitor.
But he came from Europe where he was.
He was
like
making great money back then in Europe because
He was a
foreman. He traveled all of Switzerland and Germany.
Oh, wow.
So it was a huge step down for him
to come here and mop floors for $2. And
He was coming
the
from
first,
the
he told me,
when he wore suits every day.
Yeah. And the first year and a half, he said 2 years, I wanted to go back so bad, you know.
Wow.
And my mom kind of pretty much forced him to stay in America because it was a different lifestyle back then.
Wow.
Right. That is so cool.
That's a good story.
That is awesome. So as far as for you and Liz, you said that you also grew up in New York, correct?
Queens.
In Queens. And you moved down here at what age?
16.
16 years old. Okay. And so you guys met
Here.
in Central Florida, correct?
Correct.
What about education-wise? What about you guys? I always say that everyone knows I said I was a bad student. Chris was Mr. Smarty Pants. What about you guys?
I was just an average student, B's and C's pretty much. I think a couple D's because I just didn't want to go to class. But
Did you finish your bachelor's
I
at UCF?
I almost got my bachelor's. I was 6 months shy from getting my bachelor's degree, but I decided to stick with the restaurant business because at that time I was making more money at 21 years old than most of the professors that are trying to teach me about school, you know.
Right.
And that's how I kind of looked at it. So I dropped out of school. My dad never knew until like a year and a half
He's
later.
finding out right now.
Yeah, until my sister actually ratted me out. So
Well, it became a choice between the restaurant and school.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was
the
a
defining
choice.
moment.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
So I had to make
He
a
owned the
decision.
restaurant while he was in college.
Yeah.
So now, how many kids do you guys have?
We're at 4 kids right now.
We're at 4 kids?
Yeah, that's it. We're
Oh,
no more kids right
Okay,
now.
wait a minute.
No, we're done.
Oh, it is done. Okay. 4 beautiful kids.
No, did you ever think that you were going to be an entrepreneur and just try to do something? I mean,
Well,
is it kind of
He's going to be a real estate lawyer.
My father was really pushing me to become a real estate attorney because he was in the business.
because he
you know?
needed one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
I wanted him to work smart, not hard.
He
I
started
love
paying
it.
the other guy. He's like, oh, I'll pay my son less.
I'll be honest, we grew up, my father never spent a dime because he was able to keep everything. So I guess that kind of changed my bringing. I guess I was desperate to become rich. I wanted to
He didn't
make
want to live
money.
like that anymore.
I didn't want to live like that. I couldn't go on
Right.
family field or school field trips because my dad didn't want to give me the money.
He actually
Couldn't go to the
celebrated
movies.
his first Christmas when we met, and he was like shocked.
Yeah, because
How
I
we
thought
do
my
Christmas.
dad was
That's
a
same with us.
Scrooge.
Christmas
It's-
was like
it's just
very
a-
stingy. Not stingy, but just
The first
they
time
didn't
Chris
have.
had Christmas with us and he actually got what he asked for, he's like, what?
Yeah,
It's-
the gifts and
Jen-
wrapping and all
Jen,
that.
Jen says all you have to do is circle on the magazine what you want. And I go, really?
Yeah.
And you get that?
but
And no fault to them. It's not
Well,
like they didn't
he-
want to
they
give.
had
It's
7
just
He didn't
kids,
wanna
you
know.
know?
He had to make sure that he
Yeah.
could provide
That's
for
awesome.
everybody,
There
right?
just wasn't possible at that time. They didn't have, so.
So that's kind of what instilled the thought. Well,
I'm
I'm
on
gonna,
fire.
whatever I need to do.
I gotta do it on my own.
To have
I'm
more.
gonna
That's
have
it.
to do it, and I'm gonna have to just figure it out.
To get the nice
I'll be honest with
things.
you, all my other friends, their parents were lawyers and doctors, and they were given everything, and
Right.
I was always the one that
You just
I
gotta
could.
roll
I
the
knew.
sleeves and do it.
I just knew I couldn't ask my dad, "Dad, can I borrow $20 to go to the movies?" I just knew that wasn't in
Wouldn't
it
happen.
because I knew the answer.
So how old were you when you finally just started working?
I started at 13 years old. I started my own landscaping business at 13 with my nephew for the summer. And I
Yeah.
passed out a bunch of flyers, and we started getting phone calls. And we didn't have cell phones back then, so they were
Yeah.
calling the house. And my mom and dad would get upset because they would think that they were getting charged for every phone call coming in.
Oh, no.
They didn't speak a word of
Yeah,
English.
they didn't
Oh, they didn't
understand.
know.
Yeah, they didn't know that it was unlimited local calling, you know. And then that's how
Candy
we started.
machines.
And then at 16 years old, I had made up enough money. I bought a couple vending machines and I put them in my cousin's restaurants where I didn't have to pay anything for
Nice.
the space,
Just
you
giving
know.
giving it to you.
And then that's pretty much how I
What kind,
started.
what kind of vending machines?
There was like the little
Toys.
the little chocolate, you know, the 3 bay vending machines, the
Uh-huh.
simple ones.
Yeah.
And then we had I saved up enough money, bought a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle
Ah,
4-player
yeah.
arcade. That was pretty profitable.
Nice.
And that's pretty much it. My first date was actually picking up Liz, my girlfriend at the time, going to pick up some quarters out of my machines.
I was
So
so
Gotta
impressed.
go get paid.
Into the bag of quarters. Hey, money's money.
I can't take you out until I
Yeah.
get
It wasn't a bag of
quarters.
pennies. At least
Yeah.
it wasn't a bag of pennies.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny how now you probably look at change different than most people, don't you?
yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's bothersome.
Well, you know what? I heard something from somebody one
That's so
time, and
funny.
it was if stepping over a quarter or a nickel or even a penny, you're basically passing up a money opportunity.
Yeah.
And to this day,
He always picks
I
it up.
always go down
Yeah.
and I pick it up.
I did too. My dad did too. My dad did it forever,
That's
for the longest time.
Wow.
So let's talk a little bit, so people are getting to know you guys and want to know a little bit about your current business. So let's just talk a little bit about Tomasino's and when did it start and how old is the business?
Basically started in 1999. I had just turned 21 years old. My sister was running Anthony's Pizza at the time since 1986 when she first moved here with her husband. And I pretty much started working for her at about 12 years old. I made my first pie at 12. And pretty much after that, I started my own place at 21.
Now I'm just realizing it because it was called Little Anthony's. Is that
correct.
right?
Yeah, it was called Little
It was
I
Anthony's.
love
Pizza,
it.
and then they got divorced, so her next endeavors were Little Anthony's
I
after her
gotcha.
son.
Okay.
So
yeah,
we
yeah,
opened
yeah.
the first official Little Anthony's as a
Right.
couple, pretty much.
And then the story behind that is in our area where we
Yeah, I'm
live.
sorry. Mhm.
We ordered from a place all the time called
Little
Anthony's.
Yeah.
And then eventually we knew you guys actually when you did make the name change because I
Right.
think we
Correct.
Right.
started
We met
at the
the
franchise
same
show.
little
Yeah.
franchise show.
Right.
And so that's why I'm
Right.
like putting 2 and 2
Right.
together
Well,
here.
we
Gotcha.
made the name change when it became necessary because all of the Anthony's were using different recipes and
Different
we were constantly
ingredients.
getting the question, are you affiliated? Are you affiliated? So
Right.
we just kind of wanted to set
Set
the
three.
tone and let them know that our stores will be consistent with the recipe that
All
we
the time.
use. Exactly. And
No
our
matter what
menu.
store you go to.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So now let's go ahead and say, why did you, so let's talk about why you started Tomasino's Pizzeria.
Tomasino started because we couldn't franchise the name Little Anthony's because there were so many
Too
other.
much of a common name.
Yeah, exactly. There was an Anthony's Coal Fire. There's an Anthony's Pizza and Pasta, I think in Chicago. We received a cease and desist letter that we couldn't use the name, so we had to come with a new name.
That's when we were going down the route of franchising.
Okay,
Correct.
right.
And my wife we were brainstorming. My wife said, "Why don't we name it after your dad?"
Well, we
pretty
called a
much.
meeting in our
Yeah, we had a
Yes.
meeting. We had a meeting in our.
Family meeting.
Yeah.
Board meeting.
Well,
Correct.
friends,
Board
and family, whoever could give us
Yeah,
advice.
exactly.
And we had a huge board, and we just told them throw out names to us.
And so your dad's name was Tomasino or no?
His name was Toma.
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 Okay.
So we kind of just added the. Then we named our son. You
Well,
know.
I was pregnant.
Tomas,
I was
right.
pregnant with our son when his father passed away,
Correct.
which was
Okay.
unfortunate because we really wanted him to meet him,
Mhm.
because sons are huge in our
Uh-huh.
family. And so we didn't name him until I gave birth, almost, and I just kept racking my brain trying to come up with a name. And I wanted to give his dad honor, but I didn't want to give him the same name. And I didn't want to call him Thomas because it's just wouldn't have fit with our ideal. So I came up, he was practically sleeping. I was like ready to go in and have the baby. I was in the hospital.
I got the name.
And I'm like, Tomas, what do you think about Tomas? And he was like, I like it. It's, you know, European and American, and it's different, and we like different. So then when we were brainstorming in the movie theater, we were just kept saying Tomas, and then I remembered The Godfather. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but
Of
Don
course.
Tomasino
Yeah.
was a big
Yeah.
name there. And I'm like, you know what? And his brother Mark always called my little son, who was like 6 months old at the time, Tomasino also. So it was like instant.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Once we heard the name, we were like,
It's a great
like,
name.
Yeah.
I have a pretty
Love
cool
it.
story about that real quick too.
Yeah, no, go.
Before, my father wanted us to have a boy. We had my first daughter. He's like, John, you got to have a boy, you know?
You better hurry
And
up.
he was actually in the hospital. Well, my brother called me. He's like, listen, I got to take Dad to the hospital. He's not doing good. We were just at the sonogram trying to find out if we're going to have a boy or a girl next. Doctor tells me, he said, boy. I literally rushed to the hospital, tell my dad we're having a boy. He was like ecstatic, like the happiest guy in the world. Like finally he was able to pass it on, you know? And needless to say, I think about 4 months later, my son was born. My father had passed away at that time, but at least he knew that we were having a boy, you know? So
That's cool.
it's actually it's pretty cool, and I kind of everything we did with Tomasino's was kind of after my dad. So my father always wore a fedora hat, so we got incorporated the fedora hat
Yeah, we
into
wore
the
a
theme.
suit.
Right.
Always wore a suit. We put the suit on the t-shirts.
Yeah.
And my father just it was that time, the era, the 50s and 60s. So everything kind of just fit perfect
Right.
when we did this.
And the biggest thing about Tomasino's is family. As soon
Yeah.
as you walk in,
Yeah.
they better say, welcome to the family.
That's right.
Every single person should say that.
Amazing experience
Yeah,
every
we
time
always
we go
have a
in
great-
there.
yeah, above and beyond.
Honestly,
And we try to
above
progress
and
that.
beyond almost
Right.
any
Yeah.
restaurant we've been to.
And that's the
honestly.
biggest thing we're constantly professing is service. Like, I don't really care.
The photos on the wall,
Yeah, I
the
mean,
family,
yeah,
I guess.
the
it's
store
good
has,
stuff.
I mean, and it's funny because my mother-in-law's pictures are on the wall and people don't believe that that's really how she dresses, but that's really,
Yeah.
she wears like the cloth on her head and like the old school
Yeah.
outfits, and that's,
I
they're like,
love
no,
it.
we didn't have to get a
Next
costume
time I
for
go
her.
in, now I'm gonna have to like really
Yeah.
focus on her and see
Yeah.
pay
Yeah,
attention.
that's my
I
mom.
love it.
That's my mom.
So
That's very
you know,
cool. So people like to enjoy to know that there's more to the business and the things that happen in your restaurants than just it's The Godfather.
Yeah.
Look,
Right.
and
Yeah.
there's more to it.
We don't promote any kind of violence. We advertise with a
No.
lot of schools. We
Right.
sponsor a lot of
Yeah.
schools.
Mhm.
It's just a 50s
It's
and
more of the
60s
family.
Italian theme, you know?
Right.
I love it.
just more of a family.
Now, did you have any fear going into the restaurant business? I
Listen,
mean,
we were
young.
we were 21 years
You
old.
said
We didn't know
go
enough.
I was
for it.
That's it.
18.
I had the lawyer literally tell us, like, listen, I don't think it's a good idea that you sign this lease, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
You're way too young. You have your whole life ahead of you. I think you should just wait.
Not my lawyer, everyone was against
Everybody was
us.
Yeah.
against us. Even my father did. My father wouldn't let me $1 to do it, you know?
Right.
And I literally just pushed the lawyer's hand out of the way, signed, and that's it. It was done deal.
I
pretty much.
was in college, so was he.
Yeah, we were both in college.
So how did you find that opportunity? I think I remember
The
you
newspaper.
talking about that.
We were-
It was
I was looking for a job
right.
Right.
so I could pay, my mortgage at the house at the time.
We were roommates, pretty much. College roommates, splitting the mortgage and
I've said we were roommates before.
Oh, don't listen, Grandma. Don't listen.
yeah.
And I'm reading the paper, and I don't know what made me just look for businesses for sale, but I looked and I saw the price on there. I think they were asking like $35,000 or $40,000 for a pizzeria.
Well, we did have prior experience. We worked in his sister's
Right.
restaurant.
Yeah,
Yeah, you've been for. It
So
wasn't
you
like you're like,
you'll
oh, let's
see.
just
Yeah.
open
Correct.
up a
And
restaurant. You guys
typical
had done
employees,
it.
we thought we could do it the same or better.
Or better.
Like
We
everyone
always-
else thinks.
That's my
Absolutely.
mindset. I can take it and do it better. That's how I
We
look
saw
at
all the
everything.
faults and all the things they did wrong, and we said if we ever have a store,
Everything
we'll
in
fix
life is you
That
think
way.
I can
Yeah.
do better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's part of being an
Right.
entrepreneur, right?
Correct.
I mean,
Do
it
that.
really is.
Make it better.
So
You see
the
the
funny story
faults.
about this was what happened was I look at it says for sale, and then I look Colonial and Bumby area, which I wasn't familiar with Colonial
That's
and Bumby.
Orlando. Yeah.
I didn't know how popular Anthony's was at the time back in the late 90s. So I had called the ad. Some guy named John answers the phone. And he tells me, yeah, I have a pizzeria for sale. I'd like for you to come look at it. Just take Colonial, blah, blah, blah. He's like, who is this, by the way? I tell him I'm the owner of Anthony's Pizza. And I'm 21 years old. Like I said, I didn't know how popular Anthony's was back
Who
then.
was your brother-in-law?
It was my
Right.
brother-in-law
It
at
was
the
your
time,
brother-in-law,
and my
right.
Yeah,
sister.
you're not just pulling it out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you do
So
know him.
he tells me,
Related to him.
we've been dying to meet you. I'm like, great. So now I know I gotta have this meeting with this
You
guy.
got a
So
hat on low.
yeah. So I
You gotta
called my
fake it so you
sister.
make it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I called my
That's good.
sister. I'm like, Marina, listen, I need you to please just come to this meeting and just pretty much tell them that,
You represent
you're
Anthony's.
representing Anthony's because they were going through a divorce at that time. And that's what we pretty much did.
We
went-
didn't want a
walked in there.
no-name pizza place startup
come in
to go
there.
in there. They
Right.
wanted
Yeah.
something that was solid.
Yeah.
And the name at that time
Carry
was
it
a
on.
solid name.
Right.
So
Correct.
something that people could recognize.
Yeah, absolutely.
And pretty much,
That helped us be a shoo-in for that store.
yeah. And within 3 weeks, we signed the lease. We got in there.
Tore the place
And-
apart.
I mean, I was already in a couple $1,000s in debt at the time.
Right.
My dad would not give me $1, and he's like, "Call your sisters." So I kind of just begged and borrowed my sisters for
Yeah.
money, and I had a partner. I took in a partner, an Israeli from Israel, and he was one of my close friends, and he came with some money to America, and we kind of just went
Just
into
made it
business.
work.
Yeah,
Just
Made it happen.
yeah.
hustle.
So it lasted 3 months, our partnership, and it was dissolved. I had to buy him out.
But still best friends.
Well, we're still best friends till this
That's
day.
right. That's
So
Not
it
good
worked out.
business partners, but best friends. so.
Exactly.
So then you take over this place, and so what was the secret that you just put in there? Like, what'd you do that kind of made it kind of turn the corner? I mean, was it already being was it a profitable location? at the time?
Absolutely not.
It was
No.
not.
It-
Okay.
They only opened for 4 or 5 hours a day. The guy was in the red. It
So
was
completely just
terrible.
run.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, it was
Okay.
3 different things. I mean, we found like Chinese decorations and food, and we found Italian food, and
Yeah,
it was
Yeah.
like
it was a weird
the
place.
guy was really. It
very
was,
confusing.
but
Yeah.
we didn't realize at the time what an excellent location it was.
Wow.
I mean, 2J's Deli next door to us was like one of the highest grossing
2J's at the
2J's
time.
in
Right.
the state.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was
Wow.
like
It was a very good
outrageous.
location.
So we were young, so we didn't even
So you
realize
just
what we
basically
had.
kind of just
Service.
took it.
Service was the biggest thing. We
Yeah.
just literally gave them whatever they wanted. We didn't have a coffee machine, so when people asked for coffee, I would send the employees to Barney's, which was right next
Yeah.
door, get them whatever coffee they wanted because we
Wow.
didn't have
So where do you
space
do
for a
it?
coffee
Right.
machine
Yeah.
because it was a hole in the wall.
Right.
1,000 square feet was the store.
1,000.
Yeah.
Think about that,
1,000.
everybody. 1,000 square
1,000.
feet running
Wow.
a pizzeria.
So whatever they wanted, whatever the customer wanted.
If the
we did.
customers wanted soup for delivery, we literally got them soup from 2J's. We told them what kind of soup, and we would find out what today's
I love
special
it.
was.
Not necessarily. I mean,
Yeah,
just
we did
That's
that.
good. Hey,
If they
I
wanted
literally-
beer delivered, we delivered beer. They wanted cigarettes, we'd pick
Yeah.
up cigarettes, and we made
We were
whatever
just
they wanted. We
desperate.
got.
They
Make
were
it
Uber
happen.
Eats before Uber
Yeah.
Eats,
Yeah.
right?
That's
we were
That's
just
awesome.
We
we tried
only-
to be
Whatever.
different.
We had a customer, I'll never forget, that was obsessed with Pepsi, and we just served Coke products. So I would
As
actually
you
keep
should,
a
as you should.
2-liter of Pepsi in our store just for that one individual, you know,
That's so
because every
awesome.
time he
Just
came
the little
in,
detailed
And he
touches.
knew.
yeah, and he loved it.
Right.
And
That's-
plus the
makes
fact that
a
it was
huge
us that was there every day, they saw us, they were able to, you know.
Don't you guys think that customer service, and Chris and I believe this too, customer service is I believe, if not the number 1 or number 2 reason why people are successful.
Yeah,
Like
for
it's,
sure.
Yeah.
I think it's the number
top.
1 reason.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because
it's-
we work for them, you know?
Right?
Well, you think about it, you were being socially active internally
Yeah.
before there was social media.
Correct.
You know,
Creating that
there's-
buzz.
You were
Yeah.
creating a buzz that is a little bit harder back then than
Right.
it is now.
Oh, yeah.
Back then, you were basically showing the love to one
Right.
person, hoping that one person
To tell
talks
someone.
and
And
brings
then
in
it was
referrals
door to
and
door
stuff.
flyers
Right.
that we would literally staple rubber bands to so we could put them on doorknobs.
Yeah.
So we would go at 7 o'clock in the morning, we would get all of the staff, and we would take them with us flying,
Flying.
literally.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
as soon as
make
we
it
started
work.
getting calls, we would have to rush back to the store because I was the cook and he was the pizza man.
Wow.
So we would leave them in the streets hoping that they were flying and they weren't, you know,
So
Just playing
You-
around.
exactly.
When
And that
did
was
you-
bringing us business.
Mhm.
when did you pivot from really working in the business to working on the business?
Just
Well, I
recently,
really
actually.
quickly, I wanted to say, let's tell people, if you don't mind sharing, what was your best week or time with that 1,000 square foot location before we move on?
Like sales wise?
Yeah, whatever you feel like comfortable
I
sharing.
don't know. I mean,
Well, I mean, once the store reached over $1 million a year,
Mhm.
that's when we were not
Ready.
satisfied because I don't think we'll ever be satisfied with it, but we were excited that
Right.
the store was able to do
Out
that.
of this 1,000
How
square
long did it
foot
take you to get
location.
that?
A few years
yeah,
actually.
it took a while
Well, the
actually.
first year, what did we gross?
No, I don't remember exactly,
It was
but
in the 400s.
I remember like I think around the 2.5 year mark. Well, keep in mind,
Yeah.
me and my wife,
My wife and I.
basically we were working 7 days a week, open to close, over 100 hours a week, because
Right.
we thought as business owners that was
That's what
what we
But
had
we
to
didn't
do.
complain
That's
about
right.
it.
We didn't
Well,
complain.
Right.
It was
You know?
exciting to
We
us
get
to
it.
see the business grow.
Absolutely.
So we didn't complain about it.
No, I get it.
But imagine not literally having a day off except for Christmas and Thanksgiving. There's only 2
Well, we
days.
started creating days off.
After 3 years.
Mother's
Yeah.
Day, we were like, let's just close.
Yeah.
So
After
that
3 years,
happened.
yeah, after
But
3
I
years.
think the first year we did about 420,000.
Correct.
And you're 21 years old and
Yeah.
you're 18
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
like, let's do
Yeah,
this,
which
right?
wasn't a lot of money to other pizzeria operators, but
But
to
you
us,
guys,
yeah.
right.
Like
It's a
I
start.
remember the first Saturday
Yeah.
night that we did over $2,000 in sales,
Mhm.
and he wasn't there because it wasn't busy enough for him to be there. He was helping his sister in her restaurant. Imagine
Uh-huh.
that.
Right.
He owned a restaurant, but he was not there that night.
Mhm.
It was myself and the staff. and I was calling him, yelling like, "We did $2,000!" Like we couldn't believe it. Now that would be like a slow day to us.
Right.
Not a slow day, but nothing exciting, you know.
Right.
And we were just jumping for joy because we did it with flyers.
Yeah.
And we had
Hustle.
You know what?
Hospital
Another thing helped us was we were actually, I think it was, we were treating these customers like gold because we just always did it to everybody. It was like a Cheers bar.
We
would
knew
walk.
them by name.
We knew everybody by name.
I think that you guys were saying that, and when we met you guys at the franchise show, you guys were like, "It's like Cheers," and we're like, "We're like Cheers."
Yeah.
We knew every
love
customer. We'd go down, "Hey Bob, hey Bill, hey Carol, hey David," and we just knew everybody because it was the same repeat customer.
If there was something
And
that
what
they didn't
happened-
like, we corrected it right away.
We didn't know that we were actually joking around all the time with these city search critics, and they had voted us best pizza in Central Florida the 3rd year, and that helped us tremendously. You know,
We didn't
take us
realize
to
that
the next level.
they were like editors of, at the
Exactly.
time, City Search was a
City
big
Search
thing.
was big, real
Yeah, I
big.
remember that.
And they came in and gave us the award, and it was like a huge thing for us. It boosted our
You're like,
business.
"Hey Bob,"
quickly.
he's like, "Oh, Bob has an award for us."
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
Did
That's
you
what you do, Bob.
guys right away always think, and I'm sure you did, I already know the answer to this question, but I'm not even sure. More, you're like, okay, this isn't only going to be the first one, or was it literally, okay, we're going to do this one pizza place, and then you realized potential and then did, or what were your great thoughts?
When I first signed the lease, I remember saying to myself, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire off of one store.
Taking over
literally,
the world.
just one store.
This is true.
Because I didn't understand what was actually involved.
And I think everyone makes that mistake.
I think one day
I don't think it really fazed me because I knew how he was. I knew that he was going to be successful, and I'm the type of person that whatever happens, happens. Like, I know I'm going to be great. Like, I'm not too concerned. I mean, if we're successful, I'm happy for that. I'm grateful for that. But at the same time, I'm just, glad to be enjoying our time together and not, focusing too much on the little things.
So you're like taking over the world from day one, but when did you really realize, okay, we got to do another store?
What was it, 3 years, 4 years later?
We got approached by someone that asked us. I don't think
we were
thought
kind of
ever
ready. We were kind of ready for another store.
Because
We
you're
were
feeling like
looking at
you're
the loop,
growing out of
remember?
the spot,
Yeah.
and it was time to, or what were your thoughts on that? Did you originally think franchising right away, or did
Never.
you think never?
No,
Never.
we're not thinking about franchise.
No.
We figured let's do a second location. That's when we opened up the Winter Springs location, and that took we got a lot of delays on that store, but we opened it up I think within 5 months, and
And that
from
was
the
extremely
back
stressful.
it was stressful. Yeah, it was very
Because
stressful.
he didn't believe that the store was going to be busy because when we opened the Colonial, the downtown store, it was a slow start.
Ramp
Just
up.
because people were so used to seeing in and out businesses there that it was not a consistent business. So we didn't have a good fan base at that time. It took, I want to say, like 3 years to really reach that mark where we were actually, doing great in the Colonial store. But Redbug, it was immediately, it was a line out the door
Winter
every
Springs
day.
people love pizza.
Yeah, it was just, he was not expecting it. We kind of had a bet about it, how much the store was going to do. And I said the store was going to do $15,000 the first week for sure.
Which I
Which
never thought
at
in
that
a million years.
time was a good, decent start.
Yeah, absolutely.
More than Colonial for sure. What did we do in Colonial the first week?
Oh God, man!
Maybe
Maybe $1,000,
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you think the store's going to do $15,000? Like, are you crazy? And I'm like, yes, it is. You'll see. And
I
the
lost
store
that
was
bet.
way
You
over
lost that
$15,000.
bet.
I lost that bet.
You
Yeah.
love losing that.
And that was too much for us because we still had Colonial and we were a family business.
No kids at this time, correct?
No
kids
kids.
yet, correct.
Yeah, no kids yet.
But we had our employees, we thought, set in place, but it was overwhelming for everybody. And Redbug, we ran that store for 6 months straight with 0 days off. I mean, and that was like 100-hour weeks.
So you guys were split up in between?
Liz
the
went
two
to
stores?
Redbug. I
Yeah.
stayed in Colonial.
Yeah, and that was like being in the trenches.
I hear
It was
that.
a lot because
You're
it was
fighting.
working all the quirks out, working all the employees that didn't last, hours. I mean, they would just go out the back door to smoke a cigarette and not even come back inside the store because it was so overwhelming. Just the store being that busy and not having the resources at that time made it even more difficult.
Well, how big, so I know we just said about taking over the world, but how big do you want to grow? Are you wanting to expand throughout Florida? Are you thinking other states? Are you thinking?
I plan to stay just in the state of Florida for right now. I'd like to at least have 50, 60 locations in Florida so I can expand out of state. I want to be the one that's going to go to all the stores, have my area representatives. I think we have a really good thing here, and I'm not looking to grow extremely fast. I have plenty of time. I just turned 39 years old, so I got some time. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. 70, 80 years old, not necessarily making pizza, but just being involved in the business, looking at the financials, looking at the P&Ls. I finally realized that I've got to work not in my business anymore and work on my business.
Yeah.
It took me many years to realize that.
Absolutely. That's the best way to grow, right?
Yes, correct.
Do you want to ask a question or you want me? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go for it. No.
I was just going to ask, what is the best part, do you feel like, about being the owner of Tomasino's, or what is the worst
Besides
part?
having pizza. all the
Yeah,
time.
pizza. So
The
good.
best part is the best part of being the owner of Tomasino's. I guess, I love giving jobs to all these people and seeing some of these people grow up with me.
Right.
Like so many of my friends, they were little kids, like literally coming into my store 4 or 5 years old. And now they're 18, 19 years old. I'm like, oh my God, where'd the time go?
Right.
But I love just seeing everybody grow up, all the family that's constantly coming in there, telling us that we love the place, we love the music, we love the food. It makes me feel good. And I'm not one to, advertise that I'm the owner. I don't
No.
really like to tell people I'm the owner,
Right.
just not because that's the type of person I am. I'm low key. I like to be that way, and
Someone thought I was the maintenance person
Yeah.
at my house fitness.
yeah.
And I just shake my head this way.
What
I've
was
always,
that?
I've always been called the cook.
Yeah. That's it
And
with
that's
us.
fine with me.
I still do dishes every once in a while. I go
Yeah.
back there, and then we hired a new dishwasher, and I'm there
Showing
helping
how to
him,
do it.
showing
Show
him,
him how to
and
do
he
it.
thinks he's like, how long you been working here?
A long time.
I said, oh, not too. couple months.
Before we had a machine that washed dishes.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
That's
I love
But
it.
you know what it is I think that, like you said, it's relationships. That's what makes it so special.
Oh,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
You know, of going in there, flicking on the lights, or
For sure.
or coming in and knowing you're hanging out with your friends.
Right.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Well, I've seen women come in pregnant and now their kids are like in middle school and
Yeah.
going to high school, and I'm
Right.
like, we were feeding your mom. Like,
Yeah.
we were- so that's it's a lot. I mean, it's
That's special.
It's like, yeah, for sure. You
Yeah,
can
It
see
is.
that.
special relationship. Okay, so best thing, we asked him the best thing. What about you? The best thing about being one of the owners of Tomasino's?
Freedom.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in our 20s, not that we didn't get to enjoy it, but we didn't get to do all the things our friends were doing. And we weren't jealous about that because we were excited all the things that we were doing.
Right.
But now it's like the time where we treasure the freedom that we do have. And it's not always. I mean, sometimes my kids have to come to the store with me. They've been on caterings with me where they've been be quiet in the
Yeah.
car. I've had a babysitter sit in the car while I served 400 people at Trinity
Yeah.
high school, and I paid her to just sit in the car with them and watch
Yes.
movies and give them pizza and give them all kinds of stuff so I could go in and do this catering.
Yeah.
And that's where it's been. I mean,
The
that's
minivan movies have saved us a lot.
oh,
too.
bread box and
Yeah, right.
ice cream and just give me 30 minutes to let me
Love
do what
it.
I gotta do so we
Yeah.
can go enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's happened a lot, but they appreciate it, and we talk about it all the time with them. Like, hey, this is what mom and dad have to do, so we can have our time together and enjoy it. And that's the best thing I think about the restaurant business for us, and it outweighs all the bad.
Absolutely.
Because there's bad.
Well, that's the next question. Is,
Yeah.
So both of you can answer this too. Like, what's the worst part about
Employees.
it? Yeah.
Not that they're bad.
It's just hard.
It's hard to find good ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, and it's not like all employees. And I think generations have changed so much, and that's a big challenge for us.
Maybe so much as like people that want to put the most effort in to show that they can do a good job to be promoted. I think
Right.
is the way I look at it with the
Yeah.
employees. It's like everybody expects
Oh.
straight away to have whatever they want and have vacation time and do whatever.
Yeah.
There's no work hard ethic anymore.
Correct.
I feel like. Is
Right.
that what you're saying?
And the
Right?
restaurant business is sweaty and
Hard.
dirty,
Messy and
you're,
flowery
Yeah, you get
and-
messy.
But wouldn't you want to
and
say
it's
to the
hard.
people out there that maybe might want to have a job with you, wouldn't you feel like to say, hey, if you come in and do a great job, there's more to
Oh, you can
Yeah.
become an owner.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
I
you can
started
own
off
your
as a
own business.
dishwasher.
it? Yeah.
And
my
I love
sister's
how you guys
restaurant.
have been starting to pivot that way.
Yeah.
You know,
We've
I love it.
taken potential people that we hired as dishwashers, and now they're like managers,
Yes.
they're pizza men, they're cooks. They learned so many skills that they didn't walk in the door expecting to learn. But we just saw something in them
Right.
that we said, hey, would you like to learn this? And they were like, yes, let me learn that. And then they just moved up and moved up and moved up, and now they get it.
Some people
And
just
there's
have a
a
knack for
handful
it, to
of
be honest
those.
with you.
There's a handful
Yeah,
of
right.
those. But if you're asking me what's the worst and
That's
what's
it.
the hardest challenge we have is finding those people. And we're picky. They have to fit in our
Yeah.
team. They have to have that.
you have a lot of different personalities.
We have a lot of people from all over the
backgrounds.
place.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so
But they
it's-
have to get
Can
it.
be a challenge.
Right, and when we hire somebody, the first thing we'll ask our managers is, are they Tomasino's material? Don't
Right.
even bring
We
them
have
here
higher
if they're not.
standards than most other places because we want to try and hire the best so we can provide
So
the
going
best
to families'
service.
homes on delivery, they're serving families at the table, they have to have a certain quality.
Well, you've done a great
We
job.
hear you.
Every
Yeah,
time
you
we
guys
go
did
in
a
there,
phenomenal
we're
job.
very
Thank you.
impressed.
Oh,
We're on top
really
of
good
that.
job.
We really are.
Really good job. What about for you? What would you say? You
What's
can't
that?
say employees, and now you have to pick something else.
Worst thing.
There's nothing worse because he's taking the world over the world.
I want to say anything's the worst.
Hardest.
It's always
the hardest.
The hardest
What's
is
the biggest challenge? Maybe,
opening up
say?
a new location
Mm-hmm.
and nail biting, hoping and praying that it's going to work out. You know,
Yeah.
I think that would be the worst, the scariest part for me.
Mm-hmm.
I
But
would say the stress would be more.
it's stressful. It's very stressful.
He's
too,
able to
yeah.
handle stress more than I am. He has a bigger threshold, but he's on the phone with the employees. I mean, the managers. We don't talk
Right.
directly with the employees, but the management, 24/7.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
if the drain is not going down, they call him. If the dishwasher is not the temperature it needs to be at, they call him.
I'm kind of like tech support,
Yeah,
pretty
if
much.
the
Yeah.
food, if the
Literally.
food truck is
Tomasino's
missing a
tech
bag of
expert.
flour, they call him. Even for things, and we've been trying to teach them through
Call that bag of flour.
who do you need to
Right.
call and just trying to go a step over. But he does not mind. Me, I would be more like, hey, who should you have called first, or what would you do first? And that's one thing that he does. What would you do if the printer wasn't working? Would you check the wire first, or would you check this first? And that's something. Oh, I got it. It's good. You know, and then just.
Is it plugged in? We've
Yeah.
had that before.
Yeah.
And,
And then
I
you had, yeah.
the trainers are like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
the treadmill's not working, and I'm like, well,
First thing,
Shake
I
troubleshoot.
walk in, I come
Yeah.
home from my family,
Yeah.
and it's unplugged.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, we've been
Yeah,
at like
things like that.
recitals and like plays and like on a plane and like when our cruise is about to take off and we're dealing with these
Right.
minor emergencies, but we just tell our kids,
Entrepreneurship.
hey,
It comes
this
with
is
the-
our
it
business.
comes
It comes with the
with the
territory.
territory.
Absolutely.
So, real quick, this is kind of that last question. You know, why do you think maybe that 9 out of 10 restaurants fail? I mean,
What is one secret to your success?
It's that secret, but really, why do you think that the other 9 out of 10 do fail?
A lot are not open to change, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And capital, you got to have the money. And even though I didn't have
We
the
didn't
money,
have the money, so I
we
don't know
didn't.
about that.
Yeah, I didn't have the money,
And we were
but
too young to
resourceful
realize
to
how
get
much
it.
change
You were
our life
resourceful.
was actually going through.
we would. It was just like that desperation mode where
That's
you just
a
kind of
better
go into
word.
mode, and you're gonna. I'm gonna work as hard as I can for myself before I will for somebody else.
Amen to
You
that.
know, and I said to myself, if I got to be in here 200 hours a week, that's what it's going to
Enjoy
take. I know it's not going to be forever, but I realize I better work hard now so I don't have to work hard later in the future. And my father always said to me, John, you know, in his language, he would say to me, it's better to work your butt off for 15 years of your life like crazy.
Yeah.
So you can live like a king for 50 or 60
There you
years
go.
instead of party, you know, like party for 15 years and then have to work for the rest of your life for 50
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuck into my brain like, whoa, you know, but it sounds much better the way, you know, when my father would say it,
Correct.
but because the words kind of rhymed, you know.
I
But
love it,
that to me was
Say
like
it
the
in
biggest.
Italian.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Can you say it?
No, no, I
Now,
can't.
now, when you said it with change with restaurant, do you mean more so if something's not working that you should acknowledge it and change, where you think
I
some
think like
restaurants just keep
your
going
life-
and keep push?
I think I'm talking about like literally everything,
Life-changing.
just life changing technology. Like we were one of the first pizzerias to actually have a point of sale. Everybody just had a regular
Which
register.
I was against.
You know,
I'm sorry about that.
you know, back then we didn't have
We used
GPS.
paper and pen, and it was so reliable to us. And when he brought in the computer system, everyone was terrified. He was not ever fearing of change. That's the thing about Johnny that
Right.
sticks out because
I
he was
wanted the
willing
camera
to
system,
online
and
order
back
and
then they
all
didn't
these
really have
steps that
camera
we took
systems.
to try and just bring more revenue to the store that other places were not doing.
I think you get when we spoke the other day, and we were talking a little bit about your system where you're able to tell, hey, why isn't this person, you know, eating here in a little bit, and trying to figure
Yeah.
out, you know, your customer, but
Right.
Right.
you're not in there.
Right.
You would do
Able
this.
to access
You
it.
would say, hey, I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
Your employees aren't going to.
Right.
Correct.
So that kind of takes away from you guys not being in there, because if you know that John, that's been incoming every, you know, time for
Right.
how long, isn't there anymore, you know you're going to call them up
Right,
and find
and
out. Or if
see
somebody
Exactly.
came in, but the people that came once, what happened to them? Things like
Basically,
that.
it's the technology has
Mhm.
changed so much that I don't know everything. I'm pretty good in the restaurant business,
Yeah.
but I don't know everything. I'm constantly going to seminars still. I'm
Yeah.
actually going
Education,
to
it's continuing the education.
continue education. I'm going to a seminar like in 2 weeks. We're going to Atlantic City. They're having a pizza show over there,
Mhm.
and I'm going there just to
And we're
gain
not
more
going to
knowledge.
change anything, but it's just good to.
You might bring home something good. that
If
you
I bring
could-
one thing
a
home,
tool,
that's
yeah.
going to help.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
something to help.
Just
Like,
moves you forward.
that's it.
That's great.
So what is that secret? So what is the secret of being the backyard
One, you can
millionaire?
get one
Yeah.
secret. There's
One
so
secret.
many things.
What's the one restaurant secret? Because you know there's so many people who listen to this and be like, like what do you do on a daily basis that you feel like maybe a lot of restaurateurs are not doing that you feel is kind of keeping you?
I know what it is, I
fat
bet.
and
I
further
bet I
the
know what
game.
you're going to say, but let's see.
The one secret I would say is to never ever give up, no matter what, and it doesn't make a difference if it's 10 customers or if it's one customer. Treat that one customer like it's going to be like, what's the word I'm looking
The
for?
only customer.
The only customer, you know?
Yeah.
Because that
The
one
people in the
customer
store
can
must
bring
buy.
10 more customers.
Absolutely.
So I never want a customer leaving out of my store upset. Never. There's no need to. They can take their business anywhere else. Bring it to me. I'm going to make it better. And that's God's honest truth.
Right.
Love it. Well, thank you
Good.
so much, guys, for coming
Yes.
in. We love talking to you.
We love talking
So
to you.
excited for Tomasino's. Yeah.
I
go
got
ahead,
one
Ed.
more thing
Yeah,
to
go
end
ahead.
this whole thing.
Yeah, I love it.
I was in college before I did the restaurant business. And I had a professor. He was retiring after 40 years or 50 years as a teacher. And he tells me, listen, I've never told this to any class. Whoever wants to sit here and listen, they can. And I said, okay, that's fine. I stayed after my testing. It was like an extra hour I stayed. And I say 75% of the class didn't care. They left. I just wanted to hear it. I was 20
What
years
class
old.
was it?
I couldn't even, I think it was an economics class.
Okay.
He erases the whole entire chalkboard, right? And he goes, if you want to be successful, these are the 3 things that you need to do. So he writes up there, you have to know what you're doing. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then he writes a second one. He goes, you have to want to do it.
Right.
The third one is you have to love to do it.
Yes.
Whatever it is, doesn't make it. You will be extremely successful.
Yeah.
He erases the whole entire chalkboard and he puts there, if you want to be the biggest failure in life, this is what he puts. He puts, making everybody else happy before yourself. And that just like completely like crushed me. I was like, oh my God, I was like blown away by that. And I still, it's true to
Well, he
me.
was always looking for people to look up to because his parents didn't speak much English. They didn't know much about business. So any professors and people that were successful in business, Johnny always took an ear to whatever advice they wanted to give. And
Right.
now I think like everyone will agree that he gives advice to everyone.
That's good.
So
They can take it, they can do whatever they
Take
want with it, but
whatever.
at least I said my piece,
he's
you know?
made couples have babies that plan on never having
You
children.
need, maybe you should go into pastoring.
No,
Be
he's
a
like literally
preacher.
counseled them.
He's
and
like
now
a
they're
preacher man over
no,
here.
He's helped people open up restaurants. I mean, I
love it.
yeah, I mean, it's.
You know, I think that's a humble way of looking at life because
Mhm.
there's a lot of people out there that really truly believe they just have it all figured out.
Yeah.
And I think that's we're in that same boat with you. We feel very humbled because at the same time we're always picking somebody's brain. You know,
Yeah,
I
of
think
course.
when we used to be training in the gym a lot more, and we had all these different clients, it was everybody had a different background, which brought us information of to move us forward a little bit
course.
more.
Yep.
And so I would sit there and have all these conversations from 6 a.m. to
Right.
9 p.m. just as I
Continuing
am.
to learn.
Just keep adding to that knowledge.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
really cool. Do you remember what your professor's name was? Probably not,
I
but you
couldn't
remember
tell
that.
you, no.
That's the key right there, right? Don't, whatever class it was, what the professor was, but
Yeah.
those very
And I'll never
important.
forget,
I
I'm
think
sure-
that's the biggest thing too. Like we actually do love what we do.
Yeah.
We-
Like,
we love what we do.
love the
too.
rush. Like we love like you know, we love what we do. So that's like a big thing.
Love it.
I really wanted to do the restaurant business because I didn't know that we were going to have kids in the future and everything. I mean, I knew we were going to have kids, but mostly because I wanted to provide for them, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not even doing this for the money. It's because it's become so easy, the transition,
Right.
that I can give my upper management a good life to live. They can live very comfortable, support their whole family,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of looking at it that way. All my managers I trust 100% without a doubt.
Right.
And that has helped me tremendously.
It's an honor
Yeah.
to take care of, you know,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
like that. Because I
And
think
we
that
still
good.
teach them about life lessons too. Like if they're embarrassed
Yeah,
about
they-
not being able to make their bills, and we tell them like we've been there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
here's an
Yeah.
advance
We've
if
had-
you need it. Like
We've had checks not go through
we
and
have the
couldn't pay
Me Too moments
employees.
with them, so they
Yeah.
don't feel like, hey, you know, I'm doing all this hard work and I'm still not making it because we've been there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
Well,
guys so much.
yes,
we love talking to you,
we
and
totally enjoyed it.
We'll talk again
check
soon.
out Tomasino's.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
Tomasino's.
Thanks so much.